We're in the last phase of a conflict that has been going on for many, many decades. But this last phase of the operation we're currently experiencing, it kicked off with President John F. Kennedy's assassination in 1963. At that point, a group of senior military officers decided that then something had to be done. So they were faced with a choice. They knew that the United States government was no longer a legitimate government. It was being run by what we call the deep state. It's like a crime family, but not just one crime family. There's several crime families on the dark side, all of them. And that's why it's hard to grasp what we're up about here. So they decided they had a choice. One, they could launch a military coup d'etat to take over the government by force, eliminate the crooked politicians, and then hand it back to the American people. Now, that option was discounted as unworkable because it would have caused a massive division within the US, and many of the people would not have believed it was necessary. And so whoever came into power after that would not have any legitimacy as far as the people are concerned. The alternative, and that's the alternative they chose, they began to infiltrate all the institutions. Now, why did they do that? It's exactly what the communists did after 1945. They had the same challenge. And there were those that said we should have an armed revolt and attack the governments and take over, and the workers' paradise would result. Well, we know that's a lie, but that was one of their options. They discounted that for the same reasons. And they went with the solution proposed by Antonio Gramsci, who said you should infiltrate the institutions. And so that's what these senior military officers in the United States did. They did exactly the same thing. And they're called the White Hats. And the reason they're called the White Hats and the bad people are called the Black Hats, in the old cowboy films, you had to identify visually who was good and who was bad. So the good guys wore white hats, the bad guys wore black hats. And that's why they're referred to white hat, black hat. So the White Hats decided they were going to infiltrate the institutions, but this was every aspect of society, because secret societies like the Masonic, we call them Masonic filth, the Freemasons, had penetrated every aspect of life. The polity, the bureaucracy, the judiciary, the constabulary, the military, media, academia, big business, big unions, every media personality, every media speaker and star, particularly, and they're particularly important, every synagogue, mosque, lodge, temple, all of them penetrated. The leadership across every aspect of life was penetrated by secret societies and these black hats. And so the White Hats decided they had to infiltrate. So this has been going on for many, many, many years. This isn't just the last few. They came to the point where they approached Donald Trump and said, here is the problem and here is the solution. Here is our plan for saving the country, but we have to do it legitimately. We want you to run for president. Now, they told him, you have to win it legitimately. You have to win. We can't give it to you, otherwise you have no legitimacy as the president. And so he said, he looked at the plan, said, yes, let's go. He then became part of the solution. Hillary Clinton was supposed to win, and with her in the White House, they were going to have a nuclear war with Russia. That was the goal. But with Donald Trump being elected, that broke the plan for the Black Hats. And so in the first 4 years, he dismantled what he needed to dismantle in order to remove the power from the Black Hats and reassemble, put laws in place that would allow him subsequently to lead the arrests that were required to clean out all these institutions. So it sounds a little complex, but that was what was required. The second election in 2020 was stolen. They knew it was going to be stolen, but that didn't matter so much because now he was what's called a wartime president and the commander-in-chief, and he remained that way. And so he's used the next 4 years, which people think was Biden's regime, but it's not, to begin to remove people from this cabal, one by one by one. So are we at war? Yes, we have been at war for the longest possible time. In the last few years, there's been an active war, and it comprises a couple of parts. The major of it is this. One is a subterranean war, which means they are applying real military force to clean out physically, like a shooting war, the elements of the Black Hats and the cabal, what they have been using to control the planet. It sounds absolutely crazy until you do your own research and you realize, my God, it's right in front of us. Yeah. The second part of the war has been a psychological operation, and that's been designed to persuade the enemy, the Black Hats, that the White Hats haven't got control, and to make sure everything stays calm, because they didn't want to raise concerns within the general population, because the Black Hats want chaos. The Black Hats want violence. The White Hats want peace and calm. And so the PSYOP was there to give a little bit of information here, a little bit of information there, enough for a few people to read between the lines and understand what's going on, whilst the rest were just slowly moving forward. And so we're at a real war. Now, what does it mean for Trump to be a wartime president? Well, the United States Constitution gives the president fairly tightly controlled powers to do what he needs to do to save the nation at war. But there are limitations. Abraham Lincoln, for example, when he's the 16th president of the United States, he pushed those boundaries to a certain point. In 1942, Franklin Delano Roosevelt, the president, pushed those boundaries and demanded more liberties from the Congress and promised to do it anyway. And so this wartime president has powers to do things that were not initially intended by the framers, but it was It was something that Donald J. Trump has decided to use for the benefit of the people. There's a big difference between the black hats and the white hats. And Derek Johnson is a great source, so anybody that wants to check up on what I'm saying, go watch Derek Johnson's many videos explaining in detail exactly how this works. Donald Trump, being the commander-in-chief, was controlling the US military. Do your own research and you will find the truth of what we are saying. Is Joe Biden the president, or is he being played by an actor? Once more, part of the psychological operation I described is they have to put fakes in, doubles. Now, national leaders since the beginning of time have had doubles because they're always under threat of assassination. And so the use of doubles is not unusual. But what's unusual this time is the white hats are using doubles to make the black hats and the people believe that things are normal whilst this other kinetic war is being fought. So Biden was charged, tried, found guilty and executed some time ago, many years ago. There's an actor playing his place. Now, if you want evidence of that, if you watch carefully, you can see the masks that they're using. The edge of the mask is visible. Not only is Biden a double, but there are many what people believe to be national leaders around the world that have been replaced with actors. Okay, so is the military in charge worldwide because we're at war? Yes, absolutely it is. The short answer, and it takes a while to get here, so I understand if it'll take many of the viewers to catch up, but there is a worldwide conflict being fought. A coalition of just about every nation on the planet has been actively involved in this. The black hat leadership has been removed. Some of the black hats are being controlled by white hats, believe it or not. This is what has been happening for many years now. Sometimes the chemtrails aren't chemtrails. They're used by the white hats to create weather disturbances or fogs or interference to prevent the black hat operations or to conceal white hat operations. So the ships are out there. They have been there for years. We reported this. Military tribunals were taking place, and a lot of those people were charged, tried, found guilty, executed. The whole program was recorded for later release to the people. So what's going to happen is, over time, bit by bit, those trials will be released. The video recordings of those trials will be released to the people, but it'll be done as if it's real time, because the truth of what is coming out is so devastating. If it all came out at once, the people would either reject it or go into psychotic shock. Either way, it doesn't help. So unfortunately, it has to be spoon-fed slowly over time. If this happens too quickly, then the black hats win. If chaos comes out, the black hats win. If the economic collapse lasts too long, the black hats win. If the people become violent in an organized sense, the black hats win. So we have to be very measured, and we have been. The people have been very measured. The ones that are still asleep, they just go about their daily lives. Fighting the war, that's the white hat's job. We don't get involved in that because it will cause chaos, and chaos helps the black hats. We are preparing for the great labors of peace to begin to rebuild the country from the ground up. We are preparing to build the country, and that's why we have to take time. We let them do their job, but we have to use this time, even if it's frustrating and it's tiring, because Donald J. Trump has said it is imperative that every nation create their own world. They have to be sovereign states on their own. This is not the beginning of an American empire, which some people say. Not at all. You have to begin to re-establish what it is to be Greek. Now, we know that many wars are being fought around the world, most of them unnecessary. Is war necessary? Absolutely, it's necessary, but under certain circumstances. Most of the time, the wars are fought so that the military-industrial complex can manufacture and sell weapon systems. We know that. But these wars have been fought in order to cause chaos, in order to cause refugee problems. We don't need everybody. We just need enough. If we get enough people, we can push this agenda successfully. We can inform the people, educate the people, and let them realize this is the best for you. And if you like it, it's here to take it. So there you go. All the countries are controlled by the white hats now. The white hats are effectively controlling all the governments at that level. The US had to do that first for the US. It is the most powerful country on the planet. It is the superpower on the planet, notwithstanding what China says it can do and Russia can say. The US has weapon capabilities far beyond any other nation on the planet. They just don't show them. But the US had to get control of its own government first. It then got Donald Trump into power, and Donald Trump was the mechanism by which every other government on the planet was taken over as well. So the US was first. It's already occurred. Now, that's privately, and to a few of us that understand what's going on. Publicly, what has to happen before the rest of the world will follow is that Donald J. Trump has to be acknowledged as the president and commander-in-chief of the country. The world must see the US line up behind Donald Trump. And that's why they are, in a very painstaking way, step by step by step, they are destroying all the opposition. Joe Biden, Kamala Harris, Nancy Pelosi, all of them. One by one, they are destroying them. They grab them, they use them and destroy them. They grab them, use them and destroy them, because these are evil people. These are not good people at all. But they're using them for this, what they call the movie, the show. And when Donald Trump is officially recognized as the leader of the United States with unquestioning support from his own country, the rest of the world then will see, they will then follow. Then what comes in terms of the revelation, and the revelations of what's going on is happening now. It's happening every day. Now, each country has its own responsibility. Every country has to stand up and look after itself. The US is not interested in placing puppets everywhere to run their agenda. They genuinely, and this is going to come as a shock to everybody that knows anything about politics, the old US, the cabal, they are gone. These men and women of character who are involved in this movement behind Donald Trump are men and women of immense character who genuinely know that the best solution for the planet is for every country to genuinely look after itself. So it is looking for people to step up and do what must be done to create their country in their image. They're not looking for little United States, but they want the people to realize that they are sovereign, to rid themselves of the past, the corrupt control of the past. And so what should we be doing? Prepare for the next phase of the operation, which is the creation of our own nations. Read, study, learn, get ready. Get ready to take the reins of power of the country. You have to understand so much. You have to understand how to develop policy, the philosophical foundation of that policy. You then have to communicate that to the people in a compelling way so they believe you and understand exactly why you're doing what you're doing and why you're proposing what you're proposing. The people should be starting now. The people should be getting out there and developing a plan for the future. White hats have to make sure it doesn't have a catastrophic effect on the people. Now, they need to have a shock because the people are asleep. So they need to be woken up with a shock. But it'll look like a collapse into a deep canyon, 100 meters deep. But in reality, the white hats will have a little net to catch them after 1 meter. So they feel the drop, they think they're going to die, but they get caught. The white hats have to make sure that there is no catastrophic collapse, whether it's power, whether it's electricity, whether it's food, whether it's money. They cannot afford a year worth of chaos because black hats win. But what the white hats are doing are revealing to the people what the black hats had in mind. So every time there's a threat of digital this or a control of that, and the people get worried, it's because that's what the black hats were going to do. The white hats, to the best of their ability, will prevent the collapse from happening completely. So, Sarah, could you find the link for the Space Force? And what's important is everybody, if they have an issue, and there are a number of ways to deal with this problem, but we know that the legal system is corrupt. Every lawyer is corrupt. We know that. I don't trust any of them. But if you've got an issue, keep it to one page. Don't send a 15-page document. Just give them a very short summary. No, not 1 page and 1 line, 1 page. So just 1 page maximum on what the problem is, and that will give them enough to start taking action. I love that we have a lot of common law people in Australia, and they teach common law, which is excellent because it's teaching people about the source of their power as a sovereign people. The common law, English common law rights, Magna Carta, but I don't need some dead king to tell me I have rights. The principles of common law are absolutely valid. You may live your life according to your own rules so long as you don't interfere with the rights of others. That's pretty basic. So what's going to happen is this. This is my understanding of it. Those common law principles will be built into the future governance of all our countries, but it's up to us to do that. And that's why, for example, in Australia, we are planning a constitutional convention where we will design our constitution for ourselves, and we will draw on Greek philosophy, Roman jurisprudence, English common law rights. That's our inheritance. I mean, here I am, an Italian in Australia, and my inheritance is what your forebears did 2,000 years ago. We draw heavily on all of that. This is the Western intellectual tradition to create a constitution. So common law, as people think it might be, the principles, the application will be identical. You'll recognize it. But at no point will we be mentioning Magna Carta. Not at all. Because we don't need that. That is not the source of our sovereign rights. Our sovereign rights are given to us by God. End of story, finished, bust. The white hats and others have removed much of the evil from the planet. So you watch over the next months and years this belief in God grow, because the pressure has gone and we will become what we are. Now, humans, we are told that we are a cancer on the planet. We are destructive, hateful, racist, bigoted beasts. We are anything but people have been made to believe that. That will change. Our connection with each other, our connection with animal life, our connection with all life will come back. And this is part of the process to heal the nation, to heal the planet, to remind people of our connection to life, to God, to nature. Once that is reestablished, evil cannot win. So that's number one. That's why God is critical. He doesn't need us, we need him. The second point, the cooperation. Very few worthwhile objectives on the planet on a human scale can be achieved by one person. We must work together. Otherwise, we'll just be alone. There's an old saying, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. We must work together because we have a long journey ahead of us. All of us is a very small piece in a very long, infinite plan of God's making, not ours. We want to see the result in our lifetime. We must play our role here, so 2,000 years from now, what had to happen will happen, if that makes sense. The governments that we're accustomed to dealing with, the bureaucracies we're accustomed to dealing with, they won't be calling the shots. They won't be directing it anymore. They'll be told exactly what to do and how to do it. That's point number one. Point number two, property. It'll go back to the owner. They know exactly who owns what and how. It doesn't matter how many times the bank has changed hands or done whatever they've done. No. The last point, working hours and life. Life on Earth will be very, very different in the future. If you want to work, you can work. If you don't want to work, you don't need to work. We're going to be giving everybody an acre of land. That's their land. And get them back in touch so they can grow their own food, make them as independent as possible. Now, not everybody's going to want it, but in a practical sense, you'll be able to work your own land, trade with your neighbor with whatever you need. If you want to work, you can work. It's not like you're going to be told what to do. You'll be given more freedom than you know what to do with. And so after this period, or as I think we've probably got a few more months of difficulty coming up, but then things will change. After a few months, a couple of months, 3 months of pain, things are going to change. Next year's going to be much better. It's going to be extraordinarily wonderful. There'll still be a lot of pain because there will be some death coming. But the future of the planet, you will be able to see the future of the planet, and it looks nothing like this, where you have two parents working 2.5 jobs each, can't save a deposit for the house. The children are in the hands of the cabal at school being taught nonsense. That's all done. It's all finished. This was a destructive program to destroy and demoralize the people. That will be gone. And this will be the immediate benefit that people will see from the imposition of martial law. Because what needs to be done will be done. Each one of us is richer than we can imagine in a real sense. It's not like we're all going to get $1 million tomorrow. It doesn't work that way. The fake struggles that have been imposed upon us will be removed. And people will all of a sudden realize that they don't have to work for 70 hours a week that they hate in order to buy insufficient food for their family. Welcome to the new world, ladies and gentlemen. And if you need to hang on to something, the one thing you can hang on to is Jesus Christ, his words and his life. Even the stories about him, some of them are so distorted they make no sense. But he taught us how to love, how to live, and how to die. He was the best of us. He is the one thing that we need to hang on to in getting through this next 10, 20, 30 years. Because eventually we will die, and we have to make sure we raise our children and our grandchildren. It's our duty, our moral obligation, to teach our children and grandchildren the truth and the ability to think for themselves, to rationally examine the evidence and come up with their own decisions, but based on a good understanding and ability to think. And then from there, the world has some hope. The world's going to be fine. Earthquakes at the same level as everybody else, between 5 and 10 miles depending, and they all happen around the major cities. Now, all you've got to do is look at this rationally and realize this is by design. What is going on? This is not a natural phenomenon. And yes, what they're doing is they're destroying their tunnels. They are clearing the tunnels. They are rescuing those that have been held down there. They are defeating, neutralizing, destroying the enemy that have been keeping them down there. Are they destroying other beings down there? Yes, some of those beings are chimeras, whichever way you want to pronounce it. It's a combination of human and animal DNA mixed together. And these creatures are so deadly that to shoot them with a conventional military weapon that delivers kinetic energy through a bullet is insufficient. They, for example, have to be burnt with the equivalent of a modern flamethrower to destroy the actual DNA as well. So all these stories, some will come out in time. They won't come out soon. Some will come out in time. Some stories might not come out at all. That's the nature of this war. But that is what's happening there. What else? The tunnels, the global tunnel system, there's plenty of evidence for that. Maglev trains, magnetic levitation trains, so they can travel at Mach 2 from point A to point B underground. That's been used for many, many years by the elite, the cabal. They don't bother staying in a queue, getting their passport checked, and that's just for the slaves. That's the control system for the slaves. The real rulers of the planet just hop on a maglev train and just reappear in another continent. They're all real. Again, you can do your own research, ladies and gentlemen. Don't believe me. I tell that to everybody. Don't believe a word I say. Do your own research. And the reason I say that is because so much is going to be coming out so quickly. Just as you spend a little bit of time on one issue, you'll find another and another and another. You're going to have to be very, very quick. Get a hold of what's being revealed, examine it, decide for yourself. You don't even have to decide whether it's true or not. All you've got to do is say, look, maybe, maybe not. CIA is not the friendly spies that are portrayed in the movies. They are an executive arm of the cabal, and they've been corrupting elections around the world forever because they have to control these separate little parts of the jigsaw. Every election is rigged. The CIA runs the show, and they make sure the people that they want to get elected are elected regardless of what the people say and do. So any public politicians out there are either under control or they're being cooperative, or they're just good people that are doing their job. The impression is still that they are in charge, or they have retired with a good name, and they have all the benefits. The reality is they don't. But the White Hats have to conceal that from the people, because the White Hats are still finishing off to cleaning up of the last layers of their spider web. And they want these useful idiots at the bottom to continue doing what they're doing so they can map the whole system and arrest them. If they start seeing senior politicians getting arrested, they will panic and run, and they don't want to do that just yet. So they're keeping it they're keeping it quiet until they get the last of these troublemakers. And that's why it has to be done that way. Mm-hmm. The end state in this little phase is to get unequivocal support from the entire United States that Donald Trump is the man. So the best way to achieve that is what the White Hats will do. If they need the election to do it, they'll do it. If they don't need the election to do it, they won't do it. So that's why this is a bit difficult for people to understand. They're looking for a process. A war is dynamic because the other side, the enemy, has a say on what they're going to do next. They appear here, then they disappear, and they reappear somewhere else. But the one thing they should keep in mind is whatever gives the White Hats and Donald Trump unequivocal support, whether it's a red map of the entire U.S., continental U.S., or the arrest, trial, and execution of Barack Obama, which has already happened, let's just say, and that video will come out later. But once again, what they need is this unequivocal support. This center of gravity is key. They cannot move ahead into the martial law unless there is absolute agreement across the country that this is necessary. And however the best way to achieve it, that's what the White Hats will do. Brunson case, if that comes out, that'll satisfy those with a legal perspective that Trump has the legitimacy he's supposed to have. So there are any number of these notes that need to be hit. They don't all need to be hit. It's just, once again, whatever gives the White Hats that center of gravity, that unequivocal support for Donald Trump. That's what they need, and that's the stepping stone for the next phase after that, which is already in train, but that's part of what's got to come. DARPA, D-A-R-P-A, DARPA, is a research arm within the U.S. military and is responsible for many of these innovations, including things like Facebook and things like that. But that's about all I can say. It's my understanding that is correct. Warp speed, best explanation I have for that is this. And this is the brutal mathematics of war. People have been trained to believe that wars are won by the good guys in the last minute of a 1 hour and 23-minute film, and the bad guys die and everybody goes home happy. The truth is, people die. Now, President Trump was faced with watching billions die or millions die. Correct. Now, this is a sort of question that lands on a president's desk, and these are the most difficult issues they must deal with. And so warp speed was to accelerate the release of the drugs, the bioweapon, so fast that the pharmaceutical companies could not produce enough. So they just punched out a lot of saline, just anything as long as they got paid. So they were paid a large amount of money for vial after vial of saline solution. He accelerated the process so it broke their system. In doing so, it's my understanding that billions of lives were saved. Millions weren't. But that's the brutal mathematics of war. So when they say that Trump killed millions of people, no, the black hats killed millions of people. The white hats prevented millions more from dying. And again, it's this naivety that a lot of the civilians have because they have been brainwashed for years. They've never actually faced a real threat. And when they have faced a threat, they've been told that they're wrong and they should accept the threat. And they have literally been brainwashed into being coward and accepting whatever's given to them. But the brutal mathematics of war was this: billions die or millions die. So the black hats killed and Donald Trump saved. This is the nature of warfare. Civilians don't understand warfare. They don't understand how it works. They don't understand what's at risk. This is an extremely delicate operation. We've got the black hats at one end and the white hats at the other. This is pure evil, the black hats. And at the other end, we've got the white hats. In between, we have the population. Now, right alongside the black hats are what we call the red hats. The red hats, they have no conscience. As long as you pay them, they will do whatever they need to do to get that money. And they will follow instructions, even if it's, we want you to go kill people. Yeah, no problem. We want you to fly planes and spray chemicals over the people that will cause deformities and death. No problem. How much are you paying them? Now, the red hats will only move once the black hat's arrested. The moment the black hat gets arrested, the red hats will start talking because they're cowards. Moves the orange hats. Evidence of crime. So the orange hats are genuinely good people, but very naive. And that evidence of crime must be delivered by the same face that has been telling them one set of lies. Then that same face needs to tell them a different set of truths because they will believe it. Because if you get on there or I get on there, they say, I'm not going to believe him. But if they get a trusted face telling them the same crook, that's why the media will be one of the last groups to go, because the white hats have to use the media to communicate the truth to the orange hats, because the orange hats will get from a trusted news reporter. Today, the Prime Minister of Greece was found in bed with 15 little boys. Oh, my God, it must be true because what's his name said it. Make sense? Now, if you're watching carefully, more stories are coming out. What does that tell you? And certainly in Australia, we're now getting stories of politicians and pedophilia. That never happened here. It was always covered up, never made it to the airwaves. But the fact that it's coming out now means two things. One, the white hats are controlling the media more and more. Two, the orange hats are going to start seeing evidence of crime in their trusted institutions. And it's coming from the media. So the media is going to tell them you can't trust the politicians, you can't trust the judges, you can't trust the police, you can't trust the military, you can't trust the local priest. And they will believe it. And that's going to move the orange hats. They will now join us and say, my God, it's terrible. Then you've got the yellow hats. And these are not good people. Not because they're bad. They're not evil. But they don't care about anything except this. They're the ones that put their hands over there. No, I don't want to know. Don't tell me. Don't tell me. No. They will do anything to keep left alone. They will pay more tax. They will stay at home. They will wear a mask. They will get a jab. Just leave me alone. Please don't affect my mortgage payments on my house. They will jab their kids rather than lose their house. Now, what moves these people? And this is a big chunk of the population and growing because the jab has adversely affected the psychology of the people who received it. So the yellow hats are now a bigger group because they are now turning into, okay? Now, the fear of staying where they are is greater than the fear of moving into something new. That's the only thing that'll move a yellow hat. They won't shift. They will literally bury their head in the sand, leaving their ass pointing upwards and hoping the threat will go away. But when they realize that threat is so great, they will pull their head out of the sand and run. And so the white hats have to use a different set of techniques on the orange and the yellow hats. And that yellow hat might be a scare event. Make sense now? So you've got the red hats being shown, black hats arrested. You've got the orange hats being shown from the corrupt media that the people they believe in are crooks. You've got the yellow hats who are now need a scare event. Then you've got the green. You've got the green hats. The green hats are the ones that have moved along. All of a sudden they're going, I don't know, this is not, something's wrong. They don't know what's going wrong, but they are out of this group over here, and they are the ones that we speak to. They're the ones that are open to persuasion. We say, ladies and gentlemen, look at the facts for yourself. And bit by bit, that group is starting to grow. They're starting to understand there are liars out there. Something's not right. You can't tell them about adrenochrome on day one because you lose them. But you start telling them about the things that they can swallow. And that green hat group is where we recruit. And then you've got the blue hats, that's us. We're out there right alongside the white hats doing what we can to advance as best we can victory in this war. And so that might be a sort of an explanation as to why different groups don't respond to the same motivation and why there are several elements to this war that have to be employed simultaneously to get enough people unequivocal support for what is going to come. If the price you are willing to pay for this is not your life, then you are for sale. Orange hats will watch the news and look for guidance from the news. The scare event is for the yellow hats. But it doesn't mean they're going to wake up and all of a sudden become active in their community. Not at all. The first thing they'll say is, where's my money? They won't say what happened to the 100,000 people that just died. They will say literally, where's my money? And they can't see anything wrong with that. But they have to lose access to their money. They have to go to their ATM, to their bank and try to get money out and find out a zero balance. And they're going to say, but I had $50,000 in here yesterday. Yeah, sorry, you got no money. Because that's the only language they understand. And so it's disappointing, but that's the reality of the yellows. They will never care. They will not all of a sudden become good human beings and start volunteering at the local soup kitchen. They're not going to do that. The white hats have to get them and their attention by taking their money, and that's all they'll respond to. And the moment they know they're comfortable with their money, they go back to being absolutely selfish and contributing nothing to their country. That's just life. Space Force sounds like it's involved in space. Space Force's role is to control all military communications. All military communications. That power was transferred to them under Trump. So it's not like they're firing rockets and doing things like it's got nothing to do with it. So that means that when they talk about they know everything about everyone, it's exactly what's going on. And they have a massive job to track the criminals. Now, the big criminals are going to go down first and the small criminals will go down later. But it's not like Space Force will send somebody to arrest. They will delegate that task to the local constabulary or the local military, depending on what's appropriate. And that's how it works. They're basically gathering the intelligence, preparing that, and so it is then actionable by the forces that can actually action what's going on. That's what Space Force is. We are under a belligerent occupation, and this is covered in the Law of War Manual, the US Law of War Manual. And I've been telling everybody for the longest time, we refuse to consent. We just don't follow orders. Is there some protection? Not yet. The people must stand up. The people must refuse to consent in big numbers. So get together and say, I'm not sending my children to school. If my children is under threat, I'm not going to send them to school. I'll just tell the school, oh, look, they're sick. They got a bad flu. And just not, I wouldn't send them. But whatever reason or excuse, would you put your children in danger? Of course not. You must, we must, all of us around the planet, and we're at that point now in the conduct of this war, that we must stand up and refuse to consent, because none of them, not one politician, not one bureaucrat, not one judge, not one general, air marshal or admiral has any authority over us. They are all frauds. They wear lovely uniforms and gowns and pretend to be important. They have no more authority than your dog. Literally. So the Greeks, the Australians, the world, we stand up and say, no consent. We refuse to consent. I'm not sending my child to school anymore. We, all of us, must stand up and say no consent, because they have no authority on us. That's how we contribute to ending this war. Now, we are right close to the end of it. We are so close now. This is the time where we have to do it. Is there risk? Of course there's risk. But do everything to protect your children. There are risks. Nobody gets off the planet alive, guys. And what are you going to do when you face God? Your child died. Oh, yeah, I know, but I kept paying my mortgage. Oh, but, I was very polite to the principal who was a pedophile. Ladies and gentlemen, you want to be in charge of your life? This is how you do it. Don't ask for it. You take it. It's yours. Live your life now. Enjoy it. It's a gift. Stop waiting for what's coming. You are here now for a purpose.